Okay, yeah, let me know if you have a question or you want me to go slower. But, so aerospace, as I said, Boeing, actually some of their rocket parts were made here that went out into space, and we have companies still here today that make parts for, you know, like the SpaceX rockets that go up in space. So again, we're proud of that. We also have the surf industry, and active sports is a big part of our industry. So that's why we were so excited that Japan brought surfing to the Olympics. We're very, very grateful for that, right? And we're very much hoping when it comes to Los Angeles that the city of Huntington Beach will either be the location where surfing happens, or will at least be a big part of that whole experience. Maybe we can host people here that are coming to the Olympics for different events. So we're really excited. So we're grateful to your country for bringing that to us. Also in Huntington Beach, the arts are very important to us. We have our own art center where we put on exhibits, you know, a few times through the year. And I personally am an artist, so I love art, and I brought back to the city that we're redoing our master art plan, meaning kind of hoping to bring more public art installations, whether that's sculpture or whatever that is, to the city, as well as more kind of art-related activities, exhibitions, or you know, whatever that is, plein air painting outside. So that's something that's important to me. But our city really kind of has some distinct areas where you're kind of near downtown now. Now downtown is sort of a historic area. If you have a chance to go down Main Street, you'll see kind of the smaller buildings that are older, and we've tried to preserve some of that because that's, like I said, that's our history. We also have Pacific City, which is a new kind of shopping, entertainment, beautiful district with ocean views that people like to go to. We have Huntington Harbor, which is where I happen to live, which is kind of channels where the boats are along the channels, and then homes there. So that's a really unique area and opportunity to get out onto the water too. So, but let me back up for a second just to tell you a little bit about myself. I should have started there, right? So I grew up in Seal Beach, which is just a little bit north of Huntington Beach, a small town. But we didn't have a high school, so I came to Huntington Beach High School. And if we were upstairs in my office, I could point outside my window to the tower at Huntington Beach High School. So that makes me very proud that I'm now right back here to kind of where I started, so to speak. But after high school, I went to UCLA for college. Are you familiar with UCLA up in Los Angeles? I think, have you been to Los Angeles yet, or are you going?
We did.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
We visited UCLA.
Oh, you did? Okay, wonderful. What did you think? Crowded?
Huge, huge place.
It's huge. It is a very big, and that's a public campus, so it's, you know, supported by taxpayers, and I'm very proud of the fact that I went there. And then after that, I went to the University of San Diego Small Law School in San Diego, and you know, started my law practice down in San Diego, doing business, helping people start their own businesses or grow their businesses. And then after that, and then also some real property law. But then had my little girls, moved here with my husband to Huntington Beach, and after a while just kind of wanted to get more involved in my community, so ran for city council about 3 years ago, and here I am. So that's just a little bit about the city and about me, but I know that each of you, I read what Frank provided me about each of you, which I really appreciate, learning a little bit more about what your interests are. And so, you know, I have thoughts on some of your questions, but I'm thinking that you want to start by asking me, and I'll tell you, or how, what is your... Yeah.
Maybe at this point, 質問があったら始めたら。
I am interested in women leaders.
In what, say it again?
Leaders. Women leaders. And in Japan, the women leader is minority, so men is the majority. And most of Japanese government is men.
Yes.
And women has never been in charge of the primary minister in Japan.
Okay.
And before, and when you are in charge of the leader, what is the most important things?
Okay. Well, let me back up a little bit just to say it's interesting because in America, in relative times, it's more recent that women have had been able to be, I mean, more anyway, have been in these leadership positions. When I first started practicing law about 30 years ago, there weren't very many lawyers that were partners, women lawyers in large law firms, and really where women broke in first was in government. I think there were more positions for women in civil service to be able to, succeed. And so, but now you're right, there are many women partners in law firms, there are many women CEOs of companies, still not as many as men, but we definitely have, broken that glass ceiling a little bit, right? So I think that women lead a little bit differently than men a lot of the time, not always, but I think for me, and I think this is true of a lot of women, we tend to be more what I would call consensus builders. We're looking, relationships are important to us, and I think that we tend to kind of read by nonverbal language. Do you know what I mean by that? Kind of what's going on in a room, and I think that that can really help as a leader to be very aware of what the other person's desires are, or in a business transaction or personally. That I think as women, I think we're good at that as leaders. So for me personally, I just never thought of myself as different than a man when I was going for a position or whatever. I just always felt like I can do it just as well as they can do it. Confidence is a big, important part of it. Now, of course, if your society is not as open to it, it's harder, right? It's harder for you to break in, perhaps. But in my understanding, there's a woman governor recently. Is that correct in Japan?
Tokyo,
Yeah.
Tokyo?
weekend governor.
And is that fairly a new thing? Has that happened before? Or?
Oh, man.
Yes.
First time.
It's mostly men, right? And so sometimes you have to work twice as hard,
Yeah.
right, to prove yourself. And is that fair? Not necessarily, but you know what? Don't let it stop you, I guess is what I would say, just to have the confidence that you can do it just as well, and make friends. Networking is really important.
Yes.
I would imagine that's anywhere in the world, just to know the people that are kind of have the power, I guess, and get to know them, and volunteer a lot. Volunteer to work hard and get things done, and that can help you as well. So.
Thank you. What is the advantages of the women, not men?
Advantages of women versus a man. Well, I think I talked a little bit about, I think that that's an advantage, the fact that I think we have and obviously this is not universally true, but much of the time women have the ability to kind of understand people's feelings a little bit better, and sometimes I think that can be an advantage in a situation. Maybe a softer style at times with how we interact with the world.
Yes.
I think that can be an advantage. Some people might not think so, but I think that can. So I don't know. I guess that's.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
What kind of welfare does the city have?
What kind of? I'm sorry.
Welfare
Welfare?
Like child care or
Oh,
yeah.
interesting.
for women.
Well, nothing different for women than for men. I mean, men and women are treated completely equally, I would say, in terms of government, in terms of what the benefits are. There's definitely a difference between private industry and government in terms of what benefits or like pensions after you retire. That's a little bit different. But many companies, even in private industry now, are giving paternity leave to the father when you have the baby, right? It used to be just maternity leave for the mother. Now many companies are also giving that to the father. So there's more equality, I think, between men and women. How is it in Japan? Is there anything like, does the father ever have leave when the family has a baby? Ever heard of that? No? Maybe
日
not.
本で
Mhm.
日本では男の人が産休取りますか
Yeah.
No, that would be unusual.
yeah,
Right,
yeah.
right. Maybe in an American company in Japan, perhaps?
But now increasingly,
I'm sorry?
the number of the men has a vacation to brought up the child.
You're starting to see more of that. It's not
Yeah.
not everyone or every company has
Yes,
that, but
yes.
you're starting to see that. I
Yeah.
think our society is come a long way, and this goes a little bit beyond your question, but in terms of trying to treat everybody equally, not, accepting and helping promote diversity, if you will, and not treating people differently. So we've definitely, there's been a lot of lawsuits that have helped bring that to the fore, I guess. But yeah, I think in the American society, there's definitely a push for more equality. We're not 100% there yet, but we're getting closer. Does that answer your question when you're saying welfare? You're talking about that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. You're welcome. You're welcome.
You talked to me about the advantages before, but have you ever experienced the discrimination like that?
It's a good question. I certainly know a lot of women who have. I know people who
yes,
have. Myself, not really. The only thing I could say is when I was first practicing law, we had an older client. I was not a partner yet. I was just a young associate. And we had an older client who said to the partner, "I don't want her working on my stuff," meaning me. And so the partner fortunately supported me and said, "Well, that's how it works in this firm. If you want our services, this is the associate, meaning me, that will be working with you." So I had that support. I was very lucky. That's not always the case. So I've been fortunate, but I certainly know, like I talked about when I first started practicing law, speaking to other women about how they were kind of, were not offered jobs or were not offered partnership, where the man would make partnership sooner than the women. So that, that exists, but I've been fortunate personally to have not experienced that. So, did you have a question?
Well,
I'm interested in work program in Huntington Beach, this city. Are there work program such as no work people? I hear homeless program
Oh, homeless.
is serious, so does the city have any services for
With homeless? Oh, good question. That, is becoming more and more of an issue for cities throughout our country to deal with that. People that don't have a place to sleep, right, at night, the homeless issue. And it certainly is an issue in Huntington Beach. And we address it in many different ways. The primary way, which we've been pretty successful with, but there still is quite the issue out there, but is we have a homeless task force through our police department. And so we have 2 full-time officers. That's all they do is interact. They go out, they try to find, a homeless person that might need some help and try to find housing for them. Or let's say they've been separated from their family that lives in another state. We might try to raise some money to help them get back to where their family is and, pay for their bus fare or whatever to get back. Or even somebody that can't work because their car broke down, we might help them repair that car. The city doesn't provide the funding for that as much, but we help raise money to do that. So like I said, we have the 2 police officers, and we also have a full-time case manager that she happens to be a lawyer as well, but that just kind of manages that whole program. And then we have a few case managers and volunteers as well. So it's a task force that just is out there in the community all the time, trying to kind of find where the homeless people are and how to help them. But at the same time, if these people that are living on the streets are causing crimes, then, we also try to enforce that as well, because we're worried about the quality of life for the people that, might be living nearby if they're living in the park or something. We want to make sure that families can still use the park and the playground. So it's kind of a balancing act between helping, but making sure that the community still has its quality of life, if you will. So it's probably one of the most difficult issues, I would say, as a government leader that we have to deal with, is how to handle that issue.
They've been here since last Saturday, so it's about 10 days now.
Okay.
Many things,
Yes.
they saw something is surprise. One of the many things
Yes.
was the homeless situation. We drove to the downtown Los Angeles,
In Los Angeles,
after
yes.
the museum.
Yes.
There were a lot of people out there, so they kind of wondered.
Right. It's Los Angeles has a really difficult situation, and Seattle is another city. There's a few cities that are really more impacted than others. And part of that has to do with the policies of the city. I think that certain cities they don't really want to use the police enforcement action as much. And so, but it's very difficult. We have laws in place that make it such that, and this makes sense, it's not a crime to sleep on the street if you have no place else to sleep. So if we don't have a shelter to put them in, then, we're prevented from doing something about it. So our city is looking into building a homeless shelter. Some cities have already done that, and that's one of the solutions, but it's very expensive.
Yes.
And cities in California, and probably across the whole country actually, we have limited finances. We have a lot of needs. We have, one of our biggest expenses is our infrastructure, like all of our, the sewer system underneath the ground, all of our buildings. Many of our infrastructure are 50 years old, and so they're needing repair. So we have hundreds of millions of dollars in expenses that are going to be coming in the future to maintain all of that. So again, it's balancing. What can you afford to spend now on, like we're having to redo our police station. We're going to spend over $20 million building a new police station because it's getting old and it's falling apart, and we need a safe place for our police officers to work. So that's a big expense. So again, it's just kind of balancing what can we spend where. But homelessness is definitely an issue that we're hearing more and more from our citizens. They want us to tackle, and we want to, of course, help that situation. So, but Los Angeles, it's really difficult. You see tents on the streets, right? As you're driving down, even residential streets, I think you're starting to see that. So where have you been in Huntington Beach so far? How long have you been in Huntington Beach?
Well, this morning.
That's just this morning,
They
okay.
stay at the Sheraton at the Disney.
Oh, good, okay. Nice place.
Alumni, the
Yes.
general manager there. So
Okay.
we got the discount rate.
Okay.
So they
Good.
stay there through the weekend.
Okay.
And yesterday, he himself entertained showing inside the hotel
Okay.
how they manage
Yes.
hotels and so on.
Okay.
Then afternoon visit another company in Iso Viejo.
Mission
The
Viejo?
Health care
Oh, okay.
industries.
Okay. That's a big industry in America right now.
Then
Yes.
today they went
This morning
to
we went to Isuzu Motor.
Say it again?
Isuzu Motor.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
truck.
Motor. Mhm.
Japanese truck company.
Okay.
They went
Yes.
to Isuzu out in Ontario.
Material.
And then
Okay.
they came here.
Okay.
And tonight they're gonna see the angel ski.
Oh, good. That'll be fun. Just have some fun, right? I hope they win. I really do. Well, tell me what each of you are studying, if you would. So tell me kind of what you're studying and what your goals are for your career.
Goals today's.
For your school, you're studying,
yeah.
and then what you want to do with that.
I'm in economics department, and I studied corporate social responsibility,
Okay. Yes.
and especially environmental conservation.
Conservation of the
activity.
environment?
Yeah.
Environment, okay.
And I introduce myself. I'm when I was in high school, I researched about Japanese corporate social responsibility, and in business research, I analyzed 100 Japanese corporate social responsibility.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And now in my college, and I studied now Los Angeles corporate social responsibility. So I want to know what is the difference between LA and Japan,
Okay.
and also I want to learn what do you. I want to ask you what do you think this global diversity environment affect your work?
How does the global diversity environment affect my work
Yes.
as a leader? Well, I'll tell you one way where it's affecting directly right now, interestingly, because we talked about expenses and we talked about employee benefits. You were asking about that. And so, you know, when employees that work for the government retire, they get a pension, right? And that is administered through something called CalPERS. So it's a organization up in Sacramento, for lack of a better word. Well, there's not enough money for all of that. And so CalPERS is the that administers the pensions, the
Yes.
retirement pensions, okay? So CalPERS board has kind of a policy for investing that is socially responsible, is one of the words that you hear. And so they have divested from certain types of companies, meaning they took their money out, they stopped buying stock or took the money, bought the, sold the stock in a company that they didn't perceive to be socially responsible. That might be a tobacco company or something like that. And so, unfortunately, there was a lot of losses of money because of that, but their board felt it was more important to be socially responsible. So that's a direct way. Not so, I mean, yes, it does affect our city in the sense that our unfunded liability, our pensions that we're going to owe into the future got bigger. So I guess that's one way that it affected us practically. I don't know if this really addresses what you're talking about, but one way that I see corporate responsibility in our community is that a lot of our local companies donate quite a bit of money to causes, whether it's
Local company
donates, yes, to our nonprofits. You know, for instance, we have an area in town that the people that live in that area don't have as much money, and so they might donate to the school in that area to help those children, or cleanups at the beach. They will help with doing that. So the corporations in our community tend to be very responsible that way and really good community partners, just sort of as a private industry. As government, I don't know that Huntington Beach has to make decisions on a global way like that. We're just really more as a local government, city council person.
But there's many races, right?
Say it again?
There's many kinds of races.
Races, you mean like
nationalities.
different nationalities, yes. And so what was your question then?
I want to ask you another question. You have environmental conservation activity over here?
Well, a lot of it at the beach, because again, our beach is so important to us to keep it clean.
Yes.
And so there's a lot of groups that will go down and do beach cleanup at the beach.
How to clean up?
So they literally pick it up, they'll have a stick and they'll pick up the trash. But we as a city do every single night. We have these machines that they're like gigantic rakes, basically. So it's a truck with a gigantic rake behind it, and they just clean the beach every night. Every night. And then in the Huntington Harbor area where I told you that I live, we have these machines, they're called skimmers, that skim the junk out of the water and clean that up to make sure that we have clean water quality, right? You want to see? Okay.
Is the machine big?
No, they're not. They don't look that large. Although coming down the flood channel, so we're at the beach, right? Well, there are the inland communities have channels where the water comes down
Yeah.
those and empties into either our beach or our harbors. So they do have bigger, like it's called a boom, that tries to catch more of that trash or debris that's coming down. So that's one way that we, keep that most important asset to
Yes.
us clean is our beach.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
That help?
I see. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Let's see. Do you have any questions?
question.
Yes, please.
When do you feel satisfaction in your work? I think your work is very responsible job and have very hard task. So I ask.
When you accomplish something, and sometimes it can be just something really small, like the fact that I will take a meeting with anybody that asks to have a meeting with me. And sometimes people, anybody that lives in the city, right? And sometimes their problem might be really small, like they can't get something approved when they're trying to fix their house. But to them, that's the most important thing. So I'm able to call someone at the city and find out what the issue is. So it could be something really small like that. Or it could be something, much larger, like if we can solve the homeless problem. Now that's going to be a long-term solution. That's not going to happen in my term in office, right? But I think just feeling like you can tackle a problem, make a difference in your community's life or in somebody's individual life. One of the issues that's really become a problem too, we talked about the homeless, but another one is sober living homes. And so those are people that are addicted to drugs, and so they go into a rehabilitation home to try to, get clean and get rid of their addiction. But they're in our neighborhoods, and so, like right next door to somebody's home, and sometimes they're causing problems. And so to intervene and try to find a solution for that so that people can live in their home peacefully and not have a noise 24 hours a day next door or whatever. If I can help with a situation like that, that's going to make me feel better, So I think it's just, the thing that's difficult about sitting on a city council is how many different issues you have to know about and deal with on a daily basis. The financial ones, the social, issues. There's just so many different things to stay on top of. So sometimes it is difficult, I would say that. But I think with 7 of us serving on our council, we each tend to kind of focus on different areas, and sometimes we have to focus on all of them, but each of us have sort of taken areas that we think our passion leads us towards or whatever. And so that helps if you can work with another council person and trying to solve a problem, or kind of you take this one and I'll take that one, And then we have a lot of involvement from the community too. We have a lot of boards and commissions of people from our citizens that sit on and help us, whether it's finances, we have a finance commission, that helps a lot too. So it's when I can help somebody, make a difference, right? And I think that's true of anything in life. You want to have a job where you feel like at the end of the day, you made a difference. You changed something for the better, whether, it's discovering a product that's going to make life better for somebody, or you're improving their life. I would advise you that when you find your careers, find something that makes you feel energized at the end of the day. You don't want to go to work every day and be like, oh. I mean, not that it's not all going to be easy. There's going to be a lot of hard days too, but you want to feel like whatever you're doing is something that you feel passionate about, you feel good about, right? So.
What do you think is difficult about managing many people in your position?
Okay, that's a good question, because in our government, and it works different for different cities, but we have what we call a city manager style of government. So we have one city manager, and then we have the 7 city council people. So the council doesn't actually manage the employees, the city manager does. And so we certainly have a lot of interaction with the employees. And I see my role mostly as trying to motivate them and making them feel, that I appreciate what they're doing, and that what they're doing is helping us to solve the issues of the city or whatever. But in terms of actually managing them, that's not really the role of the city council. It's more interacting with the public and then making decisions on what the staff brings to us, whether it's, you know, a large contract or a development of a property project or so. But as far as managing people, it's interesting. I think that's a misconception. We don't actually manage the staff, right? But you have a lot of interaction with them. Sure. What else? Anything else? Yeah.
Yeah, well then, there in local government, it's quite different, like, just
Yeah.
like California states.
Okay.
The mayor is just
Yes.
like a governor. He has his own cabinet
Yes.
and
Yes.
manage people, the employees.
Right. Yeah.
Unlike here,
Unlike
the
here.
mayor doesn't manage, the city manager.
That's right.
So, in a way,
Well,
it's a
different.
check and balance.
Right.
In Japan, mayor control the other department.
Yes.
And he elected separately.
And some cities are like that too, Frank. Long Beach is like that, for instance. They have an elected mayor, and of course, it's a bigger city too. So in a bigger city, Los Angeles is the same way. They will have their own staff, and that mayor, we call that a strong mayor position. They have more of a role of maybe with the employees, but in Huntington Beach. And so we don't have an elected mayor. The way we do it in Huntington Beach is we essentially take turns. It rotates. So I'll be mayor in December, but we do that for 1 year, and then it moves to somebody else. So it's kind of nice because then everyone gets a chance, you know, to serve that role because it's such an honor. I mean, what an incredible honor to be that. You're kind of the spokesperson for the city and represent them at a lot of events. But yeah, cities are a little bit different.
Can I raise one question? In Japan, more than 70, 80 years old generation is drastically increasing. Do you have any special program to support senior people here?
So you're saying the population is getting older
Yeah.
overall? We have actually a wonderful senior center. I don't know if you'll have a chance to
Oh,
go
really?
there. We do. It took us a while to get it built, but we just built. We've always had a senior center, but we just built a brand new, beautiful center, and it's. There's classes. There's a beautiful gym in there. There's educational opportunities. I mean, and then we have one of the best. Like Meals on Wheels programs where we'll take meals to seniors that can't get out to buy their own food or whatever, and then just providing all these recreational activities as well as transportation with vans that will take them to where they need to get to. So we have that as a city, in addition to what like the federal government does with Social Security to give them income and so forth. But yeah, we have a pretty robust program right here in Huntington Beach for seniors. What is it like in Japan? So I think in Japan, don't people live, like the older people live with their families through, isn't that?
Gradually changing.
Is that changing?
Young
Okay.
people doesn't want to care.
No, okay. Because I've always admired that system, I have to tell you.
Used to,
Yeah, but
like a three generation lives in the same
in the
house.
same home, right?
But that's no more. I'm sure
Yeah.
those younger generations,
Right.
they say no thank you.
Well, and I think it's more common in our Hispanic culture here in America as well, that families tend to stay together for longer. But yeah, okay, so that's changing. Interesting.
Thank you.
Interesting. Yes. Okay, anything else? I can look over my notes what you all were asking me about. Because I did look. So one of you was talking about liking to cook. Who's the one that likes to cook?
Yeah.
Is that you?
Yes.
And I like that you said that you like to cook from different cultures as well.
Yeah, yes.
Where do you find your recipes?
So on the internet.
On the internet?
Yeah.
That's why I do the same
Yeah.
thing. Sometimes it turns out good and sometimes not, right?
Yes.
And then one of you was talking about that you love to travel. Who was that?
I love
That
to
you?
travel.
Where have you traveled?
It's about 9 countries.
9 countries? Okay.
This year's March, I have been New Zealand.
Oh, I want to go to New Zealand. Was it beautiful?
Yeah.
Oh, you studied there?
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. Was that like an internship then?
Not internship,
No.
just study abroad.
Okay, wonderful, what a great opportunity. Okay, and then, let's see, someone's a tennis player, remember? That's you? Okay, and so you played when you were younger and you took it up again, is that right?
Yes,
Yeah.
I studied when I was 7 years old.
Okay. It's a great sport. My mother is 84 and she still plays tennis 3 days a week. Isn't that amazing? So I have a good role model. You know, she's just, yeah. I hope I'll be in the same shape she's in when I'm 84. 80 was hard to believe, isn't it? Yeah.
Lynn's mother is a very well-known artist.
Yes, she's a good artist, that's right.
Yeah, she has beautiful and
Watercolor, yeah, I'm an artist too, but I learned from my mother partly. I'm lucky. And then tell me about you, I'm trying to remember, what else? What do you like to do outside of your career? Mm-hmm.
I like art.
Art, okay.
I belong to art club in university. I like taking a photo of beautiful view, such as Huntington Beach.
Now, so have you seen the pier yet? Have you taken them to see our pier, Frank? You've got to take a picture of the Huntington Beach Pier. It's one of the most photographed places, well, certainly in
especially
California,
sunset.
especially at
Yeah.
sunset. It's beautiful. Yes.
No crowd.
Well, it's kind of hard to find no crowd there. I don't know that you're going to find anything to beach, unless you go at like in the middle of the night. No, but it's very beautiful. And so you like to draw too, I think I read, right? What do you like to draw? What types of things, like nature or?
I like sunset.
Sunset. Okay.
Blue sky.
Okay.
I like sky very much. I like the sky very much.
Clouds or whatever. Okay. Okay, so how are we doing on time? We're doing fine.
I forgot you have a name tag.
Oh, yes, I know, because I don't remember the names, I'm sorry.
We provide the English name tag.
Yeah.
Oh, good,
Yeah, that way-
perfect, that's helpful. Yeah, I don't have my name tag on today either.
We got that.
So we talked about what you're studying. Tell me about you, Mari. Yes.
I study now accountancy,
Okay.
commerce,
Mhm.
but I haven't decided my goal yet. But I want to involve in international jobs
Okay,
at this time.
because you like to travel, so that makes sense.
Yes, yes,
So you'd like to work for like an international company that,
yes.
my sister's an accountant. With certified, have you heard the term certified public accountant or CPA? That's in America, so she did that. Yes, okay, and what about yourself?
I study law.
Oh, you're the lawyer, or going to be the lawyer, okay.
Especially I study law of corporations.
Okay.
I want to find what kind of jobs I'm interested in this internship. I want to ask why you choose this job.
To be on the city council, you mean, or to be a lawyer? Mayor Pro Tem? Okay. Right, okay. Well, I think I'll start with why I became a lawyer, because that's what I did first. I mean, I'm still a lawyer, but I'm not really practicing law anymore. But a lawyer is a fantastic job because you learn so many different skills that you can apply to almost any kind of a job. And I think the main one being what I would call analytical skills, like how to analyze. I mean, I felt like when I had practiced law for a few years that I could solve just about any problem, you know. I've come to learn some are harder than others, you know, like the homeless problem. That's super difficult. But I think just kind of learning that how to analyze a problem, what are different ways to attack it, is just a great skill to learn. So I'm really pleased that I, went to law school and practiced law. As far as city council, I just was always involved in my community. Like when I saw a problem, I had raised 2 daughters that had special needs on the autism spectrum. Are you familiar with autism? Do they call that the same thing in Japan? I don't know. There's a different word for it. Anyway, it's a developmental disability, like cognitive disability. And so I became very involved in trying to help other families with children that have disabilities, and gave me a lot of satisfaction doing this. I've always just been someone that when I see a problem, I want to be a part of solving it. And so in my community, I saw things that weren't happening the way I wanted them to, so I thought, well, don't complain about it unless you're going to jump in and help out, right? And so I first was on the investment advisory committee because we definitely have some financial issues in the city. Most cities do. And then I was on the planning commission because one of the controversies that you'll see is whether we should be doing a lot of big buildings, big apartment buildings. And I know it's different, like in Tokyo, that's a big city, Los Angeles is a big city, San Francisco is a big city, and so big apartment buildings makes a lot of sense. In a community like ours, we had some community members that didn't want to see that. They wanted to see kind of our, what we call suburban beach, kind of low-rise family homes maintained. So that was sort of a controversy in the community that, you have to, again, balance. We need housing, but we also want to preserve the style of community that we have. So anyway, I just saw issues like that I wanted to get more and more involved in, and ran for council, and here I am. So, yes. How about yourself?
My school is same as is law.
Law is about.
I study about corporation law.
Okay.
And especially I'm interested in work program.
Rock program?
Work program.
I don't understand.
Just overtime work.
Oh, work, sure. Employment law.
Yes, employee.
Okay.
And I work at a karaoke shop as a part-time job.
Okay.
And my boss, who is the owner of the shop, he worked hard from 11 a.m. to 5 a.m. next day.
Oh my goodness. Does he sleep?
A little.
A little bit, yes. Okay.
I wondered why he works so hard. And his corporation didn't help him. We cannot help him well, so I want to work for employees who is in trouble like him.
Right, so you want to improve their situation, in
Yes.
their words, yes. Well, see, she's just addressing exactly what I talked about. You found something where you want to make a difference. And so you're probably going to be very successful in life at your job because, and I'm not saying, I'm sure you all have done this, but you found something where you really want to make a difference. And so you can just go for that and make a big difference in somebody's life. And I think that's wonderful. And in California, we have something called wage and hour laws. So we have a lot of protections for employees, in our society where they only can work so many hours, then they need to have a break, and they get pensions and all of that. So has that situation improved for your boss? I mean, do they have laws like that in Japan for employees much, or not as much, it sounds like, huh? To not, so that people don't have to work such long hours without a break or
It's
whatever.
it's a big issue right now.
It is? Okay.
Try to change it.
So that's something they're working on.
They have a law
Mhm.
not to, but it's sort of like a, no.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
we
right.
kind of close eye.
Yes.
And even some company asking employee to quit the time card and come back to work.
Yes.
So the laws exist, but they're overlooked.
That's right.
Kind
So
of, you're
now it's
saying.
getting more strict.
Yeah,
So they try to change this, how the administration
interesting.
really try to change that. But it's still,
There is still a few workforce. People is increasing.
I'm sorry? Decreasing? Decreasing, okay. Mhm. Mhm.
So workforce is not enough.
Oh, I see, the population is going down, you're
Yes.
saying. Yes, I see what you're saying. And so people are having to work harder to make up for that.
Yes.
Interesting.
yeah, the social security system is in danger because the population is not growing.
Yes. Not as many people paying into the system.
So the child birth rate is getting smaller and smaller.
Yes.
So the fact that I saw they like daily report, and one of the day there are girls talk, some alumni, the girls together
Mhm.
talk, and then one alumni they just married, I think 10th anniversary or something, and they have a child, and
Yes.
they look at them so nice.
Yeah.
So they thought that they changed my mind. I'm gonna get married sometime. They never thought of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It helps to have someone else to go through life with.
Yeah. Also along that line, the men have the two children with professionals. So maybe ask, how experience, how to raise children
Right.
while,
Yes.
working full-time as a professional attorney.
Well, Frank, I have to tell you, I didn't work as much when my kids were little because they had special needs. And so autism, which is what my youngest daughter has, requires a lot of therapy and much more so than the regular education. I mean, she would have 4 hours of work, therapy, or whatever after school. So I cut my practice way back when my girls were little. I didn't work as hard, but I certainly know a lot of women who have done that, right? Most of my friends continue to work full-time, and it's about finding really good childcare, somebody that you trust. Some people, their parents would help be their childcare person. But, I mean, we have a lot of really good childcare facilities in America. I don't know if that's, but yeah, I think that's the key, is finding someone that you trust to watch to be with your children while you're working, during the day. And then just having a good support system behind you and working for a company that promotes that and understands that. And, those are all things you can't always control that well, but looking for those types of companies that, value that and value women in the workforce and understand that, women have as much to offer as men. So, yeah, it's a balancing act, trying to do it
Your
all.
husband helped out.
Oh, my husband's fantastic. Yes, he was amazing. We were a partnership, definitely. Yeah, I mean, sure, that's the key too, is having a partner that understands it just as well as you do and can step in when you're tired, or you take over while I go off and do my work meeting, and I've got the late meeting tonight, so then he's watching the kids while I'm doing that or something. So yeah, I think that that's key, but it's not always easy, that's for sure. Yes. So how many years left in school? You're sophomores, is that right?
Sophomore?
I don't know if that's the same term, but how many years are you into your school program now?
4 years,
Is this-
we're in the second year.
Yeah.
The second year. Okay.
Less than 2 years.
2 more years.
Yeah.
2 more years.
Yeah, see, we say freshman, sophomore,
Yeah.
junior, senior.
Yeah.
That's why I said sophomore, because I thought you're 2 years into it. So you're going to Los Angeles from here, you said? No. From where, after here, you're going.
Here, half, first half, mostly in Los Angeles County, visit many. And the second half is Orange County. So they're visiting many companies that in Orange County. And tomorrow, they're going to visit his company.
Oh, and what is your company?
Jupiter Corporation,
Okay.
and Jupiter Corporation handles the aerospace and aircraft parts
Oh.
made in USA.
Oh, yes.
And then we export almost our business, almost 100% export business to Japan. And
Oh,
we
to
supply those high quality parts to Japanese airframe company like
Okay.
Mitsubishi and Kawasaki and Subaru.
So commercial aircraft?
Both
Both.
commercial and military. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay. When you probably heard about Boeing downsizing here in Huntington Beach, but they're still going to maintain part of their company here. They have that underwater, the submersible submarine.
Here the Rocketdyne here, Rocketdyne.
Rocketdyne, no, that's up north.
In Paramount.
Yes, yes. But Boeing is, but we have a couple rocket companies that are launching up to space.
Paramount area.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, but I mean, even here in Huntington Beach, we've got
Yeah.
Rocket Lab.
Yeah.
Rocket.
They're doing outer space
That's right.
launch, so that's pretty exciting, right? We're really hoping, one of the things we're doing in Huntington Beach right now is redoing some of our zoning in our industrial area, which means zoning is kind of what is allowed in a certain part of the city, right? What kind of, like, can you have only a house there, or could you also have a business there? So zoning is what type of use can go into an area. And so we're redoing sort of our industrial zone to make it more flexible, because it used to be you could have like an industrial manufacturing, but you couldn't have retail at that place, or you couldn't have office. You had to sort of pick. And now we're expanding that because we're finding that some companies want to do all of that, or they want the flexibility to go back and forth. And so we're trying to attract more business to Huntington Beach, because that's what fuels our economy, the money that we bring in, the taxes and all of that, right? So we just kind of redid that. So we're hoping to attract more companies. So send them our way, please. Especially like in the aerospace and technical, because that's kind of healthcare, I think, and technology is sort of the future of where we're seeing expansion.
That's right. They visited the company of ISO vehicle, the Japanese company, but it's new healthcare technology company.
Yep.
So it's very clean. You visited yesterday?
Yeah, yesterday, yeah.
Thermal. Even like within middle of the residential
Oh, interesting.
zoning area,
Mm-hmm.
factory is so clean, no pollutions. But yet they're hiring over 1,000 people.
Wow.
They're
See,
building
that's
all kind
interesting.
of stem cells and some of the medical
Right.
piece of equipment,
Oh, good.
the bulbs for the heart.
Very sophisticated.
Very sophisticated
Right.
clean room operations. So that's what
That's good.
they visited. Alan is the manager there. So something like that.
Yeah.
They have no idea of zoning. In Japan, it's pretty much.
Is that right? Anything wherever?
Anything
Oh,
you want.
interesting.
But it's that's why we're talking about zoning.
Yes.
It's
Zoning is a
very-
very important issue. Very important issue. You know, some cities have less of it. I know Houston, for instance, which is in Texas, you know, they hardly had any zoning, and it was just this hodgepodge of this would be next to that. And, you know, I don't know, I think it works better if you have you have the residences over here, so you're not getting the noise from the business right next door, right? So something that sometimes we change it, but for the most part, we kind of keep it.
Let me explain to you. ゾーニングってね、このシティのこの中で、この地域は住宅だけ、この地域は工場がいいです、この地域はコマーシャル、ショッピングモールなんですね。
エデュケーショナルエリ
そういうふうにしてね、決められるわけ。で、シティカウンセル、市議会がこれ決めるわけ。ここは住宅だけですよ。ここは 建物建ててもいいけどもハイライズはいけませんよ、高層建築がいいの。そういうふうにこうアメリカではこう決めていくわけね。だから昨日行った浦部さんの会社はこんなに住宅街に近いところでもそういうゾーンの中で限られた空気を汚さない、ノイズを出さない、そういうあれであればいいですよ、そういうふうにして考えてるわけね。だからアメリカは非常にそのはっきりと。
So city of Irvine has the same zoning. City of Irvine.
Yes, yes. They have a lot, well, Irvine has an advantage over a lot of cities in Orange County in that they have so much undeveloped land still. So they're able to kind of decide what to do with that. And it could be an income source or more housing or whatever. We're so built out in Huntington Beach. We really have very little land to try to do a new project or whatever. We'd have to reposition something that's already there, right? So Irvine, yeah, they're very, very planned out city. That's right. Almost some people think a little bit too homogeneous. Well, I don't know what the word equivalent would be, that word where everything's kind of the same. I mean, you want some character too, right? But no, they've done a good job. I think. Now they're going to be planning the Great Park, which is kind of exciting for them, which is Irvine is a larger city and they have what used to be a military base that closed down. It's gone. So now they have the opportunity to decide what to do with all of that land. Whether it's
Tomorrow we are visiting.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Good.
Tomorrow.
Okay. Good. They have a beautiful city hall too. I was just there. So.
Any question?
How many counties does practice the zoning?
Oh, I think everywhere in
Everywhere.
probably in the entire country, certainly in the state of California, that we all do zoning. You know, there's a word called, you know, compatible uses. You want something next door to you that doesn't conflict with, like, say, if you have a house here, you don't want a really noisy business that has a lot of odors, smells coming out of, for instance. You want those uses to be compatible.
It is easy to live there.
Yeah, exactly. So you have what we call quality of life. You want a high quality of life in your neighborhoods, right? So zoning sort of helps to put the uses in the right place so that it all works well together. It's a simplified way of saying that, I guess, right? So
Japan is also or to learn from here.
I'm sorry?
Japan or to learn from here, like zoning.
It's not something that happens in Japan, huh?
Yeah, no.
So would you have like a large, like a manufacturing business next to an apartment building? Or no?
I didn't know, but
No?
maybe no. Yeah, we don't have zoning.
You don't-
Because I didn't heard, so
Not heard that
yeah,
word.
for the first time I heard.
Okay, yeah. That's interesting.
Right now in Japan, they are allowed to have a gambling.
Oh,
So they try to create a zone to
yes.
be able to do huge gambling casino.
Okay. Like how big? I mean, like our pachinko?
It's a
or-
pretty big
Yeah,
area. So
Okay.
there's the pros and cons. They're arguing right now.
yes. So the concept is kind of developing to maybe have zoning.
Like Las Vegas.
Oh, right.
That's right. Try to generate more income to the
Yes.
local community.
Mhm.
But that's the two-sided, so they have a big argument.
We are talking, right?
Right, some people want it, some
Yeah,
people
yeah,
don't,
yes.
right? The negotiation.
Discuss.
Yes, right.
政府であったでしょ、大型の、ね、カジノ施設のあれをどうするかってね、まだ一生懸命揉めてるの話を今。
So do you have any idea, the area of law that you would be interested in practicing? Is it Mari? No. Are you Mari? You're Mari, I'm sorry. Tell me your name again. There we go. Do you have certain area of law that you're interested in, or do you know yet?
何か特別な興味のある法律の分野で。
Still deciding. You don't have to know yet.
I'm studying that, so my information about law, the amount of information about law I have is small.
Small, yeah, so you're still learning, right? Okay. So So when you talk about corporate responsibility,
Yeah.
so what are you thinking of? What is like, is there a particular area that you want to make a difference in?
On environmental conservation
Mhm.
activities,
Mm-hmm.
especially water problems or carbon dioxide emissions. In other words, carbon dioxide
Emissions.
emissions.
The carbon monoxide, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm. So the air, the pollution in the
Yes.
air. Well, interesting. Now, we have a situation in Huntington Beach right now where there was a dump site, in other words.
What?
Dump meaning like companies that were
Oh.
producing gasoline products or construction materials, like whether concrete or steel or whatever.
Mm.
And they would just go dump it on this site.
Yeah.
For years and years and years this went on, because we didn't have the laws that we have now that protected.
Is this recycling?
It's actually in the city of Huntington Beach.
Is it recycling?
No, I mean, they would just dump it there, so now we're cleaning it up.
Yes.
Basically, so a Superfund site, have you heard of that term? So what that means is basically when it's discovered that a site has toxic materials in it, so something that would make you sick, right? Toxic to the
Yes,
environment,
yeah.
to the person.
It's a big problem.
Big problem. And so then there's this whole procedure that it goes through state and then local requirements of how they're going to clean that up to make sure that they're not hurting anybody during that process when they're taking it out. Want to make sure there's not emissions in the air or chemicals that are released that might hurt people. So anyway, that site, after all these years, is just now being cleaned up. But there's been some bad odors coming from it, and some people are saying that they've been getting sick from it. So the whole process has been stopped for now while they kind of look at it. They're going to put up a large fence? Are they maybe going to tent it with something called reverse, where they're going to draw the air out possibly to make sure it doesn't get released outside of the site? So anyway, it's really, they're kind of re-looking at how they're going to process this cleanup. So yeah, emissions can be a real issue, but that's on a small scale. You're probably talking more about like car pollution and
Yes.
from industry,
Yeah.
right? And that's something as,
Do you have any plans?
I'm sorry?
Do you have any plans to reduce carbon dioxide emissions in the future?
Well, we do as a whole society. I mean, the state does. The state has certain requirements that we all have to meet. So one of the things, for instance, it affects how our trash hauling is done. We're having to recycle more now. We're required to recycle food waste. Right,
yes.
food waste. We're also having requirements come down from the state that will have the design of reducing car travel.
Yeah.
So there's less pollution going into the air, so they're trying to have more public transportation, having more people live in closer areas so they don't have to drive as far,
Yeah.
so less pollution. So these are requirements that are coming down from the state.
But Americans tend to throw away something to eat, so I think, yeah.
Wait, say that again?
I think.
Oh, trash.
Yeah, trust. So in America, in Japan,
Yes.
we tend to keep their meals, so there is no.
There's no trash to throw away? Is that what you-
But in America,
Yeah.
easy to throw away to something to eat. So it is the serious problem of the food waste.
Oh, so you're not talking about the styrofoam containers, you're talking about the food itself being
yeah.
wasted, yes. That's interesting. So in Japan, you're saying people kind of take a portion and eat that portion and don't have leftovers? Is that kind of what we're
Yeah,
saying?
they try to separate all those things, and
Oh, okay.
right now here is everything together.
But since, it's interesting, that has just changed as well. The requirement has just changed where we're now having to separate our waste, consumable waste. And so we're not, it's coming, it's not all the way there yet, but where we can't just throw it all at the dump. We're going to have to start processing that waste. The other thing that's nice is that there's an effort in Orange County right now, a nonprofit organization that is collecting restaurant leftovers. You know, not from somebody's plate, but that didn't get served, you know, back in the kitchen, and they're taking it to homeless shelters or to people that don't have enough money to eat. So it's a great effort. They're really, and they have a health inspector involved to make sure that no one's going to get sick. So they're going around and they're getting the leftover food and distributing it to people. So you're saying that's going on in Japan too? Or
In
no?
Japan, no. Yeah,
No, there are some.
There's
in
some.
Tokyo, yeah.
Some, yeah.
But very limited.
Okay.
I didn't know that.
So all those efforts are, you know,
In this city, is there food bank?
Food bank.
Food
Bank.
bank.
Yeah, food bank.
oh, sure.
Yeah, food bank here.
There's the Orange County Food Bank is, we pretty much take it there, but we have small local ones too, the local nonprofits. But there's a large Orange County food bank.
Food bank. The food waste is food that is thrown away even though it is still edible, right?
That's different from a food bank.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Food bank is more non-perishable food, right? Like canned food and so forth. Take to people that don't have enough to eat. So it's a different issue.
Yes.
But we do have we have a huge recycling facility here in Huntington Beach. When you see our
Yes.
our recycling can right here, one of them. But yes, we our trash hauling company, we did that a couple of years ago, where the whole thing is, you know, recycling everything now, including food waste. So.
So in December, and non-profit organization Orange County Japanese American Association,
Yes.
We collect money and then we donate the food bank.
Oh, you
every
do?
year, yeah.
Oh, good. The Orange County Food Bank?
Yeah, yes.
Wonderful. Yeah, they definitely need.
Any questions? Everybody pretty much clear?
You guys have any more?
What is your goal of success in the future?
For me or for my city? What do you? However I want to answer that, huh? Well, you know, I guess my goal, my overall goal as a city council person or mayor is to make the quality of life for the people that live in Huntington Beach and the people that visit Huntington Beach when they're here the best that it can be. So that encompasses so many things, right? So if we're experiencing problems with, like I talked about, sober living homes that are making it difficult for a neighborhood, tackling that problem, solving that problem. But I also think it's important to have things that we're proud of. Like I mentioned the public art master plan. I really want more art in our city because I think art and culture makes us all better people, and it's a stress relief to have exposure to art and all of that. So I want to make us a well-rounded city too, and make sure that we're not just tackling problems, but we're creating great opportunities and, you know, fun experiences for people as well. So I kind of want to tackle both of those things at once. And, you know, and that everyone feels welcome to live in our city, and that everybody has the same opportunity to have access to City Hall. You know, I don't want there to be favorites. I don't want that this person can get the door answered and get in to talk to a city council person and get their problem solved, but that person can't. I want it to be open to everybody. That's really important to me, is that we all have the same opportunity and the same access. You know, so I think that this, you know, specific goals, it's really more broad than that for me. You know, is to just be the best person that I can be for the city, to make the quality of life the best it can be. And to get our finances in order. That's a tough one. To be able to pay for all the things we need to pay for. You know, and to make it a city where businesses want to come and make this their home too. You know, new companies, I really want to do what we can to attract more business to this city, and to make sure that we don't make it difficult for them, whether they're needing to remodel a building. Let's streamline it so that it's easier for them, you know, within reason, and that they have what they need to make a successful business, you know, in our city. So that's really important as well, and economic development.
When is the city council liaison to the Sister City Association,
Yes,
which I'm president of.
yes.
So she's been visiting Japan together, about 73 people.
Yeah.
Together,
That's
five
wonderful.
mayor and home mayor. So everybody together went to Japan. So she has very global, international friendship, goodwill. So I can give support.
And Joe, right?
Then next year, we're working on another sister city in France. Villette, France.
Yeah.
Just Villette is the hosting city of G7 this year, a couple of weeks ago. So we're working on new sister city relationships. And next year, we ask, time then, when will be mayor.
Right.
So we will go together to Villette to sign
To sign.
official agreement with sister city.
Right.
So in many ways, she's helping international
Yes.
friendship.
Well, and one of my favorite experiences from that trip was when we were in Anjo. Wasn't it Anjo where our pier is on the plaque outside,
That's right.
right? So our pier, which I keep mentioning, is so beautiful. About, I don't know how many years ago, many years ago, we had a horrible, horrible storm and it knocked out most of our pier. And so we had to raise money. Well, Anjo, our
Yeah.
sister city, gave us a large amount
Essential.
of money to help us rebuild that pier, so we were very grateful for that. And then when we were visiting Anjo, we came out of the train station, was it, where
Yeah.
that plaque is? And there's a plaque mentioning our sister city relationship with a picture of our pier.
Yeah.
So that was just kind of a wonderful moment for me to see that. It just kind of shows the relationship between our two cities. Right?
37, 38 years, many years.
And Frank's kind of the person behind all of that. Yeah? How long have you been in that role?
About 10 years.
10 years,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, it's
So
a
we-
great effort.
Time is about ending. So maybe then, could you share whatever, suggestions or comment for
Any
young girls
advice?
from your own, experience, what you, suggest for the future and you think about?
Well, I mean, I did talk about, I think that it's really important to find what makes you passionate about something. In other words, find a career as a person that makes you feel like you're going to make a difference and you're going to like what you're doing and you like going to your job each day. I think that's really important. But as a society, for us all working together, I think things like solving the pollution problem, it has to be the whole world. We can't just be certain countries that have regulations that are stronger than others if we're not all doing it together. So anything that you as young people can do to help, internationally bringing the world together to, through goodwill, like these goodwill ambassadorships that we're doing through the sister city, is so critical because we can't all do it alone. We have to do it together. So I think that, that would be wonderful to kind of continue. And the fact that you're here visiting America is wonderful. I think that's fantastic. And that we have our students going over there and, coming back and exchanging and getting to know each other's families. The more that our worlds can come together, the better that's going to be. So I think that that would be, something that you could do that would be positive. And just work hard. I mean, like I said, you have to work sometimes as a woman that much harder, I think, to prove yourself. So just don't get discouraged if you feel like it's not happening as fast as you want it to. Just keep on going because anything's possible, I feel like. I really do. Here's Julia. Oh, and Julia has a few gifts for us.
I do.
Yes.
Yay.
We just have a few
Let's see.
things to,
Some fun things. Little mini beach balls.
yeah.
These are fun. You're welcome. And there's more. You're welcome. Do you want one too? Sure. Let me give you some city pins. Sorry. Coming back around.
Frank, did you give them the Sister City, Frank? Do they have any of the Sister City pins? I brought some of those too. Or Sister City pins.
Oh, no, I didn't.
It's a city pin. Oh, look at that. You're welcome.
Is that your university?
Oh, I like it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So here, this is our Aunt Joe's sister city.
Yes, thank you.
So it was a 35th
It's a
anniversary. Yes.
The stickers.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
There you go.
You're very welcome.
Wow, thank you.
You're so welcome.
Yes.
Thank you.
Stickers.
Wear it proudly.
Here's my card too.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too.
Thank
Hope you
you.
guys learned a lot.
Explain what your job is to.
Oh, my job? My job is to make her look good. Thank you. I do all the communications for the city, so Facebook, social media, Instagram, TV. I work with this with Matt quite a bit, with a lot of videos. I tell people my job is to get us in the news or get us out of the news.
Right.
If it's not good,
Yeah.
I have to help with that.
Yeah.
I write a lot of speeches for council members. I work with all the department heads, so I work with everybody like fire, PD,
Police department.
community development, parks and recreation. So I work with all the different departments to get out. Like right now, I'm working on a newsletter that talks about all the city news, and I sent it out to a couple thousand people today, including the media and the press. So people know what's happening in Huntington Beach. So what's happening, what's coming up. There's a lot going on.
There is a lot going on, I know.
It's summer is busy, but now the fall is busier.
Yes.
On the 21st, September 21st, we have 4 events
Oh,
on one Saturday. So we have American Legion. It's like a 100-year anniversary of a group of people that have been here for 100 years. So they're having a big celebration. We have a nighttime run. So they're going to run along the beach at nighttime. So that's a big, like 5,000 to 10,000 people that will come to run at night. And then we have
the air show's
the
coming up.
air show's coming up.
Yeah, sure it's coming.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
So lots of exciting things. It's never boring here.
No.
It's never boring. Always something to do and
Big
something to
events.
talk about. And
Lots of people come visit
Yeah.
to the beach, and that's what we want, right?
In fact, Matt, if he can give me like a YouTube or something for this interview, the professor taking care of all students will use that for next year
Oh, good,
to
good.
show how
The experience was,
the Maple-Pen and students encounter
yes,
so they have a chance to see before come to the States.
good.
So
Perfect.
that was a great textbook.
So was it just the 4 of you that came this year, or was there more students? Just these 4 students came this year?
There are many countries. Some of them went to Southeast Asian countries, Singapore,
Okay.
the Shanghai, China, you name it. Just
okay.
all, but here Los Angeles is a 4.
Okay.
Because we can, the school wanted to have a more, but we couldn't handle more than.
Right.
Yeah.
I understand.
So also the whole students, we can keep eye on them. If you got too many, then
Yes.
some people may be sleeping in the back.
We don't want that.
So,
Be learning.
yeah.
Okay.
This year, all 4 girls, but some year, 1 or 2 boys,
Okay.
mixed teams.
Well, it's been my privilege to meet all of you and have you here. We really appreciate you coming to Huntington Beach. And if there's anything else we can answer afterwards, don't hesitate to, you have my card. You can email me or whatever. I mean, really, if you have follow-up questions you want to know more about, don't hesitate.
Thank you.
Because they're so stressed out last night.
Oh, you can see I'm easy to be with, right?
But after seeing you and so warmly welcome, so I can see their face change
Feel relaxed.
when they
Yeah.
arrive.
Good.
They're kind of
You don't know what to expect. I understand
Yeah,
that. You don't know what to
so,
expect. Right. Well, and I have to say, we are a more casual culture, and certainly the city of Huntington Beach is more casual, but I have great respect for your culture and the formality of it at times. And I think I don't know, I feel like we've lost a little bit of that in America sometimes, that we're maybe a little bit too casual. And I would like us to kind of make sure that we retain that respect for people that are older and for institutions like government and leaders. And so I respect your culture, so please don't lose that. Maintain that. So.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, well, I think we have to give up the room here, but yes, you're so welcome. I remember.